What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. Today, you're in for a treat, man. This guy has done some pretty amazing things at a very young age, and he's got a vision, and he's inspirational, and it's just really a cool story. Aaron Spivak is a serial entrepreneur passionate about building impactful businesses and communities. He co-founded Hush, one of Canada's leading sleep brands, transforming sleep and wellness for thousands. Now, as founder of the Founders Club, he supports high-growth entrepreneurs through collaboration, exclusive resources, and events. Dedicated to health, wellness, and personal development, Aaron empowers leaders to scale their ventures while fostering holistic growth. Well, Aaron, is so good to have you on, brother. I'm excited to hear about everything you've been up to, man. How you been?
Doing well, man. Thank you for having me.
It's truly my pleasure. So I guess I'll just start with Founders Club. I love the name. I think it's awesome. Before we go back into what you did previously, what was the impetus? Why were you like, yeah, man, this Founders Club, this is something that's needed. This is my passion. Tell me the story, brother.
Yeah. So, I mean, it ties into, I guess, what we'll chat about in a minute. But, I started business at a very young age. I grew up in Toronto, Ontario. So I played a tremendous amount of hockey like every Canadian. And so that just didn't lead to much schooling. And I remember when I dropped out at 18 and I had this idea to go out and build something in the world as an entrepreneur, at least back then, it wasn't as cool as it is now. Now when kids drop out, it's like, what are you going to do? What it's up to? For me, it was, you're a drug dealer or be a teller at Walmart or something. It wasn't without an education, there was no path forward. And, I kind of felt in that moment what it was like to be lonely. And I always thought it was because I was 18 and everyone else was at school. And then when I started Hush, which we'll get into, I was 22, but everyone was at school. And then when I sold the company, I was 25, turning 26. I hadn't known anyone that sold the company. It was at the time, it was the third largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. I found my M&A lawyer on a Google search, and I had no one. Not only did I not know anyone, I had no resources, and that feeling of loneliness persisted. And it was a moment where I realized there's no way I'm unique in this. And for a year post-exit, I actually flew all over the U.S. I had, I think it was about 45 dinners, 50 to 60 founders, all over the countries, 18 cities. I'd literally pay $5,000 a pop. People ask me, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, I got to find out. First of all, I want to meet new founders. I love founders, the coolest people in the world. But I got to find out if I'm the only one. And what I realized was founders generally feel like they're on a deserted island. As many resources as we all think we have, there's so many we don't have access to. Specifically when you're growing and scaling your business, whether it's $1 million, $50 million, $100 million plus, you always need something that someone else has, whether it's hiring, creating infrastructure, getting into retail stores, it could be anything. And it was a light bulb moment for me is why can't we create a community that has it all for entrepreneurs? Why can't we create a community that activates virtually so people from all over the country can talk on a regular basis? Why can't we create a community that people can chat in person, localize? So whether you're in Miami or New York or Atlanta or Toronto or Montreal or LA, doesn't matter. We have that local community there. And then why can't we come together on an annual or biannual basis and have these incredible retreats where we plan our year, we learn strategic planning, and we bring in some of the best to teach? Because founders need to learn, and we're in a position all day as CEOs and executives where we're teaching everybody else because we're constantly telling people what to do. We're causing systems, we're iterating, we're therapists sometimes. Who's teaching us? And that's when the idea for the Founders Club was born. It's about 12 to 18 months. We just crossed 250 members, which is fantastic. And it's great to see, only 18 months, just how many wins have come out from what we're building.
Yeah, I love it, man. You're surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and people that want to grow. What a fantastic idea. I have to go back to Hush because, dude, you kind of I was 18, dropped out, and then all of a sudden started this company at 22, sold at 26. I'm like, okay, some stuff happened in here, brother. There's a gap between 18 to 22 where we're finding ourselves, what was going on in the head, and then 22 to 26. Brother, that's a quick exit, and congratulations. Let's start with 18 to 22. And I'm not advocating for people to go to college or not to. I don't care, man. At the end of the day, I don't think that determines someone's success. And I think you would agree with that. But tell me that period of time. What were you doing in such an interesting time where people are trying to find themselves, trying to figure out? And obviously, at some point, you found this Hush idea, which was pretty awesome. But what were you doing, man? What was happening during that period?
Yeah, so I was playing hockey at a pretty high level, and I got into college to play hockey at the college level, and I was a few semesters in, but I realized it wasn't for me, and I realized I wasn't going to play in the NHL, and even if I was never going to be good enough to make any money. I didn't come for much, so I always felt the need to be able to take care of my family, take care of my parents. School was costing me money, so I was like, what am I doing here? And I'll never forget, I had this idea to start a Kickstarter, which is essentially a crowdfunding campaign. And at the school I was at, which is actually one of the best business schools in Canada, I only got in because of the hockey. They're like, all right, we'll let you in. And I remember being so excited about this class because, like, this is exactly what I want to do. They're teaching about it in this university. So it's like 2 in 1, right? And it was in that moment, I remember 2 weeks into that class, when I was really like just gung-ho on launching my Kickstarter, I went up to the professor and I kind of pulled him aside and I said, listen, everyone here is like, they're here for theory. I'm actually building one. I'm building a Kickstarter. So like, this is the most important class in my entire calendar. Is there any Kickstarter that you launched that I can just go and do some research on and kind of like work with you on it? And he kind of chuckled at me. And he's like, I've never launched a Kickstarter. Dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And I remember like literally 24 hours before is when I put my credit card in the machine because I paid for my school, my credit card. I paid $4,500 for this class. And this guy didn't even do what he was teaching me to do. And I was so frustrated. I went to the dean's office. I asked for a refund. I was past that point. No refund. I ended up just getting in a whole fight and said, you know what, I'm done with school. I'm going to go out and do it on my own. And my journey didn't start with a Kickstarter. It actually started with a cold press juice shop that I started out of my mom's basement when I was 18. Now, this is 2012. Now, there's cold press juices everywhere. The Joe and the Juice, the Jamba, there's all these things. 2012, after a hockey game, the healthiest thing was a Subway sub. Was and we all know those are not so healthy. And or McDonald's, like there was just no alternative. If you wanted to eat healthy, you had to eat at home. And so we started juicing in my mom's basement for a year. And I tell people this story and they think it's funny, but it's the truth. Usually you go to someone's house, they have this little thing beside the door where you sit, you can take your shoes off. At my house, you couldn't sit on that little ledge because I had a cash register there. And for a full year, people would be knocking on my door and I would be selling cold pressed juices out of my door. And I just kind of, one thing led to the next. I opened a location on my night, like literally right when I turned 19. So all the money we saved in that cash register into that location. And within a few short years, we opened 7 locations. Still exists till today. It's called Revitalize in Toronto. It's got, I think we just actually opened a location this Sunday. It's 12 locations now. It's been over 10 years. We just did our 10-year anniversary. But it all changed when I was 22 and I was at a bar and I had a friend come up to me and kind of say, listen, you're pretty weird. All our friends are at school having fun. You're like managing juice stores and smoothies and posting on Instagram. What are you doing? But I have another friend who's also weird. He's right there at the bar. Why don't you go say hi to him? I'm like, what? This is like, this whole thing is messy. But I'm like, you know what? I have no friends at this point because all my friends are either playing hockey or at school. And I'm splitting smoothies all day, managing employees. And I meet up with him and we kind of instantly became friends because we had very, very similar stories. I ended up doing juices. He ended up selling on the internet. And long story short, he exposed me to the internet. Because I would tell him, in order to expand my business, I would take all the profits and open another location and then pray that I don't lose money on this location. And then if I did well, I can do it again. And the more locations you have, the faster you can do it. And he was like, dude, why don't you just sell online? And I was like, what do you mean sell online? He's like, just Shopify. And it was in that moment, I spent an entire year selling the juices on Shopify. And I remember just 2 months in, our online store outperformed all of our stores. And my brain exploded because that store had 1 employee and needed no additional resources. And I then was handicapped because I can only ship juices so far. They're unpasteurized, they're heavy, they're clunky. You can only go so far. And it was in that moment that Lior, who ended up being my co-founder in Hush, sent me a text saying, I saw that there was 300,000 searches for the term weighted blanket on the internet. And there's 2 guys selling and I bought the product and it's terrible. I know you're a product guy and I'm a marketer. You think you can make a better product? And I was like, I don't even know what Way to Blanket was back then. I said, absolutely, I could. And that was the beginning of 22. And we set out to build Hush. And it was tough because he had a software company that was doing really well. I had 8 locations and at the time, 60 employees to manage. But we made a commitment to each other that at 6 a.m., I'd go and open the juice store until around 3 or 4 o'clock. I would come back, we'd eat dinner, and we would dedicate 5 p.m. until most of the times 12, but sometimes 1 in the morning every single day for a year to build Hush, to see if we had legs. And kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, I love that. This is the part that I want people to really hear, because oftentimes, as you said, back in the day, being an entrepreneur, it's a cool thing now. Back then, it maybe it's cool, but it was not the same. It doesn't have the same flavor. But what you just said, I'm running a full-time gig, 60 employees. Like, I got a full-time gig, and now I'm going to commit to something additionally. That commitment and drive, I think you said it was a year where, look, man, I'm getting home at 5. I'm sure you're exhausted. I'm sure you're ready to kick your feet up on the couch. But you know what? I have this guy, Lior, he's a badass marketer. I got to create this thing. Tell me about that, brother, because I think so often the entrepreneur spirit, I love it. And yet this is the dirt, the grime, the grind, all that stuff that I think people need to hear, because I want more people to be an entrepreneur, but I also want them to know, hey, man, you're going to put your nose to the grindstone. You may get kicked a couple times. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and it can be awesome. And just know you're going to have to put in some work. Talk to me about that as you built Hush.
Yeah, looking back, it was pretty crazy. We would work probably 18. People say I work 18-hour days. We were putting in 18-hour days, 6 days a week. We take Saturday off. Well, not really. We take the day off, and then we'd work at night. So like 6.5 days a week, easily 18 to 20-hour days, extremely high functioning. We built in our second year, we were at $20 million at a 25-point margin with 3 staff. People say, how'd you do it? It's because we work 20 hours a day. How did you become the number 1 selling weighted blanket in the world? Well, I know for a fact because I'd follow all my competitors on Instagram and Facebook. No one else was doing what we were doing. And there's an aspect of it that you got to work smart and not work hard and all those things. But I believe at that age, at 22, 23, 24, in your 20s, your competitive advantage, and we were very aware of this because I had older brothers who were 7, 8, and 10 years older than me. Your competitive advantage that you do have that time and you do have that energy. My brothers got kids, they got wives. They can't do 20-hour days. It's just not possible. Granted, can they figure it out and be efficient? Absolutely. Are they more resourced? Absolutely. Do they know more people? Absolutely. But they don't have 20 hours. And when you're a young guy like I was with no money but a ton of energy and a ton of time, it was the requirement. And I think now looking back, people say, knowing what you know, would have done it differently? It's like, yeah, because I know what I know and I'm 30. But at the time, it was absolutely required. And when I tell people we went, from literally $0, I had $4,000 of DJ money to $48 million a year at a 25-point margin, bootstrap, no loans, no line of credit. No one would give us anything. We were young and broke. They say, wow, it's incredible. How'd you do it? And I say, well, we worked our ass off. And they go, yeah, I know. But I'm like, no, I know people say it, but we did it. We did it for 4 years straight. And it's what's yielded, to us, was at the time, which was the 3rd largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. And you don't do that with top 10 Canadian Kickstarter of all time. We were on Shark. We did all these things. It's because we were 100% all in all the time.
Wow. So you decide to exit at 26 years old.
Yeah.
Brother, that's amazing. I didn't really start my entrepreneurial career until about 26 years old. So
still young.
All right. Yeah, it was young. And You know what? I'm blessed that I got in it as early as I did. But how did you know, man? How did you get an offer that it was just like, man, this is the offer I can't refuse? I know my passion's leading me elsewhere. I think so often we hear this glorious exit, but there's a lot that goes into it, man. I've exited 3 companies, and there's a ton of emotions, good, bad, and ugly in all of them, at least for me. there's a grieving process because you put so much into this. What was it for you where you're like, you know what, this has run its course, or this is just too good, I didn't know I could do it? What was it for you, brother? What did that look like?
I for us is we knew when and who we would sell to from the day we started the company. We would have pictures of the guys who were going to buy it up on the wall. We would deconstruct every transaction they've ever had. We knew what they liked to buy, and our goals were all situated around that. And a part of it was manifesting. We would sit there and joke every day. We're rich; they just haven't paid us yet. Say it every day. We would reenact and pretend. We'd have fake emails come to us. Hey, we want to buy your company. We would constantly attract that into what we wanted to build. And the way it happened was totally not the case. We knew when we hit around 50 million, that was a sweet spot that they like to buy at. We just so happened to hit that in our fourth year. And we knew that they wanted profitability. Like we reverse engineered their deal. So we were ready for them. We had no way to contact them. We never even spoke. They had no idea that we were conspiring to make this transaction happen. And we were actually at a charity event. And it's a funny event where you essentially like pitch the crowd and the crowd votes who's the best pitch. And we won. We won the best pitch. It was awesome. It was in Montreal. The guy comes up to us after and he goes, hey, I got a buddy. You got to meet him. And like everyone says that, right? Because you're the guys. You guys just won. And I was like, sure. And we ended up getting on this call with this guy. And obviously, we didn't do our research. We just got on another call. We're like, "Who's this guy?" Lo and behold, it's the guy. This is the guy. And we were like, obviously, super unprepared. I remember on the call, he makes a joke. Like 2 minutes in, he's like, "You have no idea who you're talking to, so I'm gonna go take a piss. You guys do some googling, and I'll be back, and we can actually restart this conversation." And it was in that Google search, and we're like, "Oh my god!" Because he looked a little different, but also what he doesn't know was for the entire 6 months before that, I was putting up billboards around his house, like all around his house. This whole drive to work, I put up billboards of us, all of our stuff. And he's like, I see you guys everywhere. I'm like, I know you do. Because we are everywhere, and his favorite team was the Montreal Canadiens. So we sponsored the Montreal Canadiens that year. He lives in Montreal. Like, we were so intentional. And after about a year, 6 months, he was like, are we going to do a deal? And I was like, yes, we are. And I would say that was the peak. And you brought something up that was really key that I think a lot of people overlook. From that point until the day we got paid was the hardest, probably 9 months of my entire life. It is extremely grueling. It's a process that as a young company with no governance and no CFO, to have PwC in your office, pulling your eyes out for 6 months. I didn't even know what the word due diligence meant until it hit me in the face, and I learned the hard way. And I think we were lucky because no matter what came out or what skeletons we had in the closet, because we were a 4-year-old company, like you can only expect so many processes and systems in place and governance. He was obviously an incredible person and kind of knew. He's like, I'm buying 26-year-olds company. I know what to expect. But at the same time, I lost my hair. I had to get a hair transplant. I lost 20 pounds. It's and you can't tell anyone. And it was like, I know I said earlier, the loneliness at that moment was probably the worst. And even once you do the transaction and you have that euphoric moment, you just want to curl up in a ball and go to sleep because it was the most grueling process of my entire life. And we sold to a publicly traded company, and we signed on a Friday of a long weekend, which means Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday market close. So 5 days we're not allowed to tell a soul. So you have the biggest moment of your life. You got to go home. I was living at home. I got to have dinner with my parents, and no one knows that I just had a life-changing moment. I'm eating, and I'm like, I can't say a word, and it's one of those moments that you wouldn't take back, obviously, but nobody can prepare you for your first big transaction, I would say.
Wow. Your vision is incredible. I will say that, brother. Just the idea that, the cold pressed juice, you're like, boom. Which sounds like you're still involved with that. Are you still?
Yeah, I'm involved with everything still. Even with Hush, I sit on the board. I don't do any real work anymore, but it's nice to be on the board and see them launch some products. And yeah, everything I do is health and wellness, sleep, cold pressed juices. I've invested in multiple cold plunge and sauna companies, and I got this Brown's gas machine beside me right now, pumping me gas. Like, I love health and wellness. I think now I feel like there's a trend, which is awesome to see, but I love the idea. I don't know about living forever, but just living really good years. I want to be high energy. I want to be able to fight. I tell it to people, they don't like when I say, I want to be able to fight. I want to be able to fight someone. No, not actually, but just the idea of like, I could fight, is very empowering, and you need your health. Without it, you're out of the game.
No, health is wealth at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. What I would say, though, your vision, there's a movie actually on Netflix right now. It's called Focus. It's about to leave, but it's the billboard thing that you did. I don't know if you understand maybe you did understand how incredibly that is so brilliant. That is just, I love it. All right. So now we are at the point where you're like, all right, man, I've sold, had my euphoric moment. I was able to tell some people now this idea of Founders Club. And I think you said you're flying around to various spots.
Yeah.
You said $5,000 a piece, and quite a few dinners. What did you learn, brother? Because I'm sure it was other than, hey, cool, man, I got a lot of points on my credit card. But no, what did you learn? What was like as you went through this? Because I have to imagine sitting down with so many founders, so many stories. I mean, your education was just out of this world doing it. What a cool exercise.
Yeah, I would think it starts with, like, I love founders. All my friends are founders. All my whole network is founders, executives, operators, people in the trenches. From an economic standpoint, statistically, founders, small businesses, they run the world. Even enterprise businesses, they all run the world. And it's the innovators that bring new ideas, new change, fun, to the world. And being a founder, although it comes with a lot of pride, it comes with a tremendous amount of pain, and you are alone. And if you have a co-founder, then you can potentially share in that. But outside of that, you're alone. Even if you have 1,000 people that work for you, you are alone. And people leave and they go, and the founder's always there to clean up the mess. And that feeling is mutual amongst every founder. And I found it to be true between a founder who is just starting out, actually the most lonely, to all the way to the founders that are doing, 9 figures, $100 million. We have in our community, we have multiple $1 billion brands, and you would say the exact same thing, both of them. So with that, I kind of wanted to change what I felt in my journey for everyone else, because it doesn't have to be that way. Entrepreneurs don't have to find their resources on a Twitter thread or on a LinkedIn post. They can find it from their trusted community. Now, a lot of people come and tell me, I got really good friends, we go for dinner once a month. They're all entrepreneurs. That's fantastic. That's what you want. Imagine 300 of them, 400 of them that are your real friends, not some weird Discord. These are people that you are going to meet 2 or 3 times a year in person. People say, well, that's 2 or 3 times a year. It's like, yeah, it's probably more than you meet your family sometimes, 2 or 3 times is a lot. Even if it's just for a dinner or just a meetup, it's a lot. So the idea that we can create a highly vetted, which is a very important thing, it's a very highly vetted community that's now almost 40% female founders, which is fantastic. And everyone is high growth, cares about health and wellness, wants the most out of all buckets of their life. And when I say that, it can get a little murky, but to be clear, it's if you are ultra successful in your business and you're suffering in your relationships, in your friendships, in your health, in your community, and nobody likes you. The restaurant doesn't even want to serve you because you've been a jerk to them or whatever. But you got this big successful business. To me and to us, it's not the definition of success. Right? The definition of success is the ability to at least attempt to be full in all of your buckets. And it's a hard thing to do, but we're founders. We do always do the hardest thing. And what we do at the Founders Club is facilitate the opportunity to have that. And some people, they go to every single event, every single dinner. They're on every single call. They're amazing super users. We love them. For some people, we just had our annual retreat in Tulum. For some people, it's just coming to that. 50 of us together for 4 days, planning the year 2025. We had an executive workshop. We had a few billion-dollar founders come and coach us through some of the strategic planning, some of that insight. These guys aren't doing podcasts. They're not on YouTube, just to bring them in through the network. is super, super powerful. And it's something that I have so much fun with because I feel like I can do it forever.
No, I love it. So it sounds like it's not just business, 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 but I mean, you're going to Tulum. It doesn't suck. We got some stuff we can do down there. We can, definitely hang by the beach and obviously, work out. We can do all the things that it sounds like you guys are into.
Yep.
You also said highly vetted. So clearly you guys are like, look, man, not anybody and everybody's coming in here. Even if you're the most billion-dollar person, but you suck as a human being, I'm guessing you guys have some of those levers where you're like, no, man, you can't be a dick and be a part of our community. It's just not the way it works. How did you choose? Were you like, we got to like these people first? They have to be founders. Like, what's your checklist? I'm just curious because I agree with you. Everything you said. As a founder, we talk about this all the time. It's like everyone else is getting paid first, right? You get, or at least in my case, many of the companies, I get paid last, if at all. And so that's one of those things that no one else can really understand other than another founder. So what does that checklist look like for you guys to say, yeah, man, you're in? No, I'm just curious for my audience listening, because we have many founders listening that they're going, cool, man, this sounds awesome. I like Tulum. I like different spots, but maybe I don't qualify. What does that look like for you guys, Aaron?
Yeah. So there is, revenue numbers that you have to hit. And the reason I don't share them, or they're not like waiting on our website, is because they're different for different niches, right? Like D2C, for example, $1 million D2C brand, people can spin up usually within a couple months. But a home services business doing $1 million or $2 a year, that founder can put $500,000 plus in their pocket from that. The margin is there. So every business is different. So it really is like, you got to apply, fill it in. There's no specific revenue number that if you hit, you're in. I would say that the one liner, because it's easy to apply. It's like a 3-minute thing on our website, Founders Club Official. You can go click become a member. You can apply. There's a 2-part, sometimes 3-part interview process, and then there's we have a whole admissions call, and we really do protect the group, because at the end of the day, it's a community. It's only as good as the people within it. Right? It's not Aaron's community. I don't address the group every morning like a speech or anything. I don't actually hardly ever address the group. I go to the events, like I'll see people there. It's really much the members build the value within. But I would say the one line that encompasses what we do, and you mentioned like you can work out and stuff. Yeah, like mind body business is definitely incorporated in all of our events because I think it's important. But I think it's the definition of what is a successful relationship. So a successful relationship, to us at least, is one that involves equal part giving and taking. And granted, sometimes you have to give a lot. And sometimes you're in your taking mode and you got to just take. You're going through something. We had someone that won the free Mr. Beast commercial with Shopify. So it was like, you can't buy these ads really with Mr. Beast, a small brand. He won the commercial, like the Shopify contest. He had 1 week to prepare what he was going to do on Mr. Beast. He completely changed his company. So he had to take, the whole club came together and brainstormed this incredible initiative. We ended up leading to one of the stores he was working with, and it transformed his company. We actually crushed it with him. But he needed to take in that moment, right? More than he can possibly give. But however, over the longer period of time, for us, a healthy environment, a healthy community is one that's constantly giving and taking. So a lot of it is, what are you looking to learn? What do you need right now in your business? Sometimes people are like, I just need financing. It's like, great. We have 1,000 partners that we work with. We can get you that. No problem. And then also, what can you teach? What is one thing that you can give to the community, to someone else in the group? And you'd be surprised. I know founders love this. We love to teach too. We love to share some of the things we learned. We love to tell people, hey, I went down that road. Don't do it. Like, trust me, like, or don't buy that thing. I know, or don't right away go into Whole Foods if you're a CPG brand. It's probably not your first move. Those things can change the complete trajectory of a company. So for us, it's just about that. It's discovering everything you need, everything you can give, and then we place you. So we have these monthly masterminds. You get put into a cohort of 8 people. We have an executive coach that joins that mastermind, not as your coach, but she coaches the conversation. So it's not like you're going to have this executive coach up on a pedestal and everyone just asking, him or her questions. The coach is there to facilitate the conversation and move it forward. And people love these masterminds. They're 2 hours once a month. You're grouped into a cohort of like-minded individuals, or again, based on your intake form, based on your admissions, based on we actually use AI now. It's been fantastic for grouping people. Based on all the things you need, we're able to put you in the perfect cohort so that you can work with them for 6 months. I know some groups out there, you keep the same cohort for the rest of your life. I love that. For us, people change. We're high growth founders. A lot of these people, their business is doubling year over year. They're going from 10 million to 20 to 50 to 100 million. Every 6 months, their business isn't the same as it was 6 months prior. So we do shuffle it up every 6 months, again, depending on your needs, what you're changing, what you've learned, and we keep recreating that over and over again. So it really is an admissions process. And I always encourage people, if you have any interest, just to apply. It's totally free and kind of feel it out, see how it works for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, look, I've been around a lot of different masterminds. This sounds definitely unique. I'm curious. You said 2 hours a month you have the mastermind. You had the annual event in Tulum, 250 some odd members. How many physical, do you have physical locations, or is it really like, do you have groups that have kind of spawned? You've mentioned some bigger areas. Like I know you're in South Florida, so maybe Miami's got a unit, or New York or LA, but what does that look like for your group? And
no
what's
locations
the vision?
yet. That's a good question. So like we have core cities where like a lot of our members are. So like Miami, for example, we have 60 members, right? Wow. So in Toronto, we have 100. It's like, those are like some big groups for us. New York, I think it's like 25 or 30, LA. Everyone has at least 10, I would say. Dubai, we just opened Dubai. There's 14 members in Dubai. So like these cities also naturally create these cohorts. So we activate locally. So we have this thing called local champions. And certain members will either have people over at their house for dinner. Actually, Thursday, the team is actually sitting up right now in my backyard. 25 members are coming back. We're having an amazing dinner here on Thursday just to reconnect. We did a goal setting workshop like 2 weeks ago, the whole group. So people will come share their goals, kind of just talk through things that they're dealing with at the beginning of the year. So that happens. The local things are happening all the time. We host official dinners 60 times a year. So 80% of them are always members, and we open 20% to like potential members or people who just want to come and see what the community is about, see if it's for them. And then we do our like big events, which is essentially we have one in September. Last year we did one in Miami, and then we have the Tulum one we did, which is our annual event where people will come for 3 or 4 days. So it's kind of like evening hangouts or daytime hangouts. Like in New York, the amount of people that go for a run and go for a coffee every single week is insane. Like they're just constantly doing it. And then we have like our official dinners and then like our masterminds in person. Wow. Our next one is actually in Miami on Friday, funny enough, it's the day after, where we're bringing 30 members are all coming, and we do a lot of things that are topic based, top of mind. And this one's all about actually personal branding and how to build your personal brand alongside your brand. Because like a lot of founders are like, I don't know, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I do want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to take it from my brand. So it's a very top of mind topic. And again, these things happen all the time. We bring people together, 30 people, 2 hours, and we're going to flush it out. It's going to be a fantastic evening.
Wow. So 60 events. You guys as Founders Club, as your crew, your team, are you responsible for curating that?
We're crazy. Yeah, we're crazy. And it's not expensive. Like I'll say the price. It's $5,500 for the year. Like these groups, some of them are $30K, $100K. We don't. And then I know it's a business podcast. People want to know the business. Do the math. We're not making enough money from the membership. The goal is not to. There's no benefit to us. I'm sure the price will go up over time as we continue to add more and more things. But for us, we treat it like an ecosystem. So we can have people that sponsor these events. We'll have credit cards. We'll come and they'll sponsor because they want the exposure. So we find other ways to subsidize the cost, because at the end of the day, it's about the people. I can get the 30 of the best founders are coming Fridays. People flying in for just 2 hours. People flying in from Manitoba. I don't even know there's a direct flight.
No.
Just for this 2 hour deep mastermind, because they've been a part of the club for at least a year. Those 2 hours together, 30 incredible founders brainstorming one single topic. Well, so much value will come out of that alone, right? So for us, it's like the people are the value, and the more members join, the more we can do. So it's kind of it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's kind of a revolving door if we can do more and more and more.
Well, and I have to imagine, again, I already did the math, and that is a steal for anybody who's listening. Yeah. Trust me.
It might change. I can see it being more expensive in the future, but for now, it just works for us, and I'd rather prioritize the people versus trying to get a couple extra bucks.
No, 100%. It's actually very appealing, not because it's inexpensive, but because my brain immediately goes to it's still high level. We're vetting and saying yes, no, yes, no. We're not just letting any Joe Schmo through the door that has $5,500. But I'm guessing so much of your investments are coming from people that you're hanging around. So it's like you're 100% making money, quote unquote, investing with people you know, like, trust, have spent time with, bonded with, worked out with, all these things. It's actually really, really brilliant, and I think it's a great thing. So where do you see this going, man? How big do you think this thing's going to go? Do you have an idea? Is this something that you're like, similar to Hush? I'm growing it and I'm going to sell it.
This is what I don't want to sell. You know, I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life. You know, I love founders. I can see us expanding and doing things all over. And entrepreneurs are not going anywhere. We're only growing. We're only creating more and more resources. I would say for us, in the future state, if you would say the 10-year plan is 10,000 members would be fantastic. I think that's going to be that's our North Star. We know we can facilitate enough value there. We know there's enough founders for that. I think we want to grow extremely slow. So our whole thing is just try to cap it at 25 to 35 new members a month. Anything more than that, we're just not ready for it. So that's why I always encourage people to apply, because even if you don't get in 1 month, you can get in the next month. And over time, over again a 10-year period, I think we can build something that will also be a legacy piece. You know, it'll go much beyond me or anyone else involved. It'll be an ecosystem of itself. We're already starting to see, you know, founders take on bigger roles in the community because they get so much value out of it. They're seeing the value to others. You know, we had one guy join with an idea. He 3D printed a cup in his basement. And he came to one of our dinners and he's like, I'm a full-time police officer. I have this cup. And I was like, well, you know, this is a founder dinner. It's for founders. He's like, no, I want to be a founder, but I have this cup. I need someone to launch it for me. We ended up letting him in the group because he was so ambitious. Again, that's an example of like no revenue, but the right person. And this cup, you basically turn the knob and instead of drinking out of it, you blow into it. And it's a crazy horn, like a crazy horn. And it's called Loud Cup. You can search it up. And someone in the group ended up saying, you know what, I'll launch that with you. I think it's a great idea. I know you're not available from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. every day. You have no phone, but I'll launch it for you. Give me this cup. Long story short, within a year, they're doing $30 million in sales.
Whoa.
And all completely viral. They're the official cup of the Clippers. You know that like wall they built in the back? They are the cup in the wall. And they're, you know, straight shot for $100 million brand. And it's things like that otherwise wouldn't be available. This guy is from Ottawa, Ontario. There is no community for him. And if there wasn't an opportunity for him to come and be surrounded by like-minded individuals, and again, the vetted, what does vetted mean? It means I can trust you, right? Because there's a commonality. I can trust you immediately. Someone trusted him immediately. He trusted that person immediately. Next thing you know, you have a massive brand that's going to be bigger and bigger as time goes on. You'll license it. I think he's already got soccer teams in Europe. Like, it's just craziness. All because one of the dinners, and there's thousands of stories happening within the club like that.
There's a lot of cups that literally are in the graveyard right now, brother. There's so many good ideas 6 feet under, and I love that there's so many examples I'm sure you can bring up with that. When you look back, I'm thinking of my audience right now, and they're like, all right, cool. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, man, I want to be in. I'm in. Like, get me in. I'm going to be putting in my application, which is cool. My question would be, when you look at the 250 plus members, when you look at these successful founders, what is the common trait, brother, that you've seen where it's like grit? It's, you know, is it integrity? Is it the willing to just get your ass kicked and get back up again and smile and do it some more? Like, when you look at it, what was it that you say, yep, that founder's going to do well? You know, is there a common trait that you found amongst the group?
There is. And it's funny because I was just saying that to someone this morning. I said, I can tell with pretty good accuracy, pretty much right away, what someone's end of their story is going to look like. And I don't like to say it often, to be honest, because it might rub some people the wrong way. But I would say the best way to describe it, and we all have this experience, no matter who you are, You know, when you go to like any event and you meet someone and they tell you what they do, but like you don't really remember, you don't even really listening, but you leave that interaction and you go to someone else. And although you can't say exactly what they do, they got a product, it's a robot, but you know, based on the way they speak it, the way they look, their eyes light up, their energy is glowing. You're like, I don't know what that person does, but they're gonna crush. And there's something that I call it the soul, right? Depending on how much connection between someone's soul and what they do, the stronger that connection always yields an incredible result. Almost always. I just see it all the time. We were just in Tulum. We have this incredible guy, Curtis. He runs a brand called Portland Leathers. They're a $100 million plus brand. You guys go on LinkedIn and watch one video. He selfie videos pretty much every day. Watch 3 seconds. And if you tell me that you think that guy's going to be unsuccessful, you're missing the point, because it's impossible. Every single person gets it from him. When I met him, I didn't even know his brand yet because I missed his application on the application process. But the admissions team let him in. When I met him, I'm like, within 3 minutes, I turned to Chris, my co-founder. I'm like, who is that guy? He's awesome. He's like, dude, that's the Portland Leathers. And I was like, oh, it makes sense. So I know it's not an easy thing to say. Grit, working hard, smart, education, all those things matter. But a founder who's willing to never stop and is so passionate about the end of their story, they can recite it in their sleep and they say it 1,000 times a day, and no one and nothing can get in their way, no matter it's doubt or problems, because they're delusional. They're so delusional about the future that they're unwavering in their actions on a daily basis. Those founders are always going to win, because we all know shitstorm's coming. It's inevitable. You're going to get slapped. You're going to get crushed. It's going to happen. Awesome. Cool. You're not going to be the first one. But the ones that are just so soulful in their connection to the end of the story, nothing will stop them. And when I invest, because I invest a ton, that's all I care about. So my whole investment thesis is there's 3-step process before I invest. 1 is we go for dinner. 2, you come to my house, we cold plunge and we sauna. I like to see how long they can last in the sauna and then in the cold. And then after that, I wait till like 12 o'clock at night and I say, let's go for a run. No one wants to run at 12 o'clock at night after 2 hours in the sauna and the cold plunge. But I don't even care for the run. Sometimes we just go for a walk, but it's the reaction to like, let's go for a run. I don't give a shit. Let's go. Because they're willing to do whatever it takes. And that's usually my investment thesis. And it's been pretty good so far, but it's a weird one. But I got to be able to like really connect to the soul, because I feel like those guys are undefeated.
Yeah, no, you're going to see it. That's, as you said, man. Look, I don't care how many times I cold plunge. It sucks in the first 30 seconds, man. And I'm going to go every day. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And after 30 seconds, it's going to be awesome. But it sucks for 30 seconds at least. And I love the word delusion. It's funny because there's a negative connotation. And yet I know exactly what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, man, you have to have that crazy delusional vision that everybody's like, yeah, that guy's a whack job, but in a great way. Like you're going to win.
You want the whack job.
You do.
Yeah. Whack jobs do well.
They do. I'm just open for, man. I could ask you questions all day long. What didn't I know enough to ask you that you're like, man, you should have known enough to ask this question about what I'm doing, about what Founders Club is all about? Open forum, brother, before we start to wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you hit pretty much all of it. All I would say is, I know there's a lot of founders and entrepreneurs and executives that listen to this, all ages, 25 all the way up. And I would say that there's the cheat code is to understand that as humans, again, this can be the Founders Club or not. This is not a pitch for the Founders Club. This is just something to keep in mind as an entrepreneur, as a founder. As humans, we're designed to grow and evolve within communities. And sometimes that could be your local community golf club. It doesn't matter. Find your community, find your tribe, and let it inspire you. Let it bring you forward. Let it be there for you in very difficult times, and let you be there for them. Remember that equal part relationship in tough times. And you learn a lot about yourself within communities. And there's a lot of communities out there. Founders Club is a great option, obviously, but find the one that works for you. I'm a part of a handful of communities. I have ones that are great for my health and wellness. I have ones that are great for my spiritual side. I have the Founder Club, which is my business side. So it's just find the one or a few that work for you, and don't make the mistake that I did and think that solitude and being alone is an advantage. It's actually a disadvantage. The advantage is groupthink. The advantage is brain trust. It's a great book called The Culture Code. And if you do any studying on any form of Navy SEAL training, you realize that there's no commander in the world at any army that makes a plan by himself in the room. They're always sitting there with a group of trusted, like-minded individuals discussing the plan, arguing, talking, deciding, and coming out as one unit. That needs to be true for founders and entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and it's easy to fall into solitude, man. When you're grinding, that's the easy, default. Like, I don't have time. I'm committed, bro. Don't you understand? And yet you are missing out on so much. So, Aaron, if people were like, yeah, man, I'm in, I want to check this out, what's the best place to connect with yourself or with Founders Club in general?
FoundersClubOfficial.com. I'm super active on LinkedIn. So just Aaron Spivak, Aaron Spivak. And then on Instagram, I post pretty much daily as well. It's just Spivak, Spivak. Hit me up, DM me if you have questions. I'm pretty much as available as I could be. And I think I got a newsletter on there as well. If you want a weekly, week and a half, I like to drop whatever going on in my world and whatever nuggets I can share. But for the most part, those are the social medias, and I'd love to connect.
Awesome, brother. Well, there's so many good things that you talked about in here. I definitely appreciate you coming on, talking about your journey and having the vision to create something so unique and cost effective. My God, I'm telling you, my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, what? He said that?
Only for now. So get in while you can.
Yeah, man, for sure. But thank you, brother. It was awesome, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Guys, please go check it out. I mean, look, this guy is 30 and has done some cool shit in his time, and yet he's wise beyond his years. And so much of what he said, I'm like, yeah, man, I wish I had known that when I was doing my first company, second company, third company. And finding that tribe, I will tell you, even at my age now, 46, I'm still continuing to look for that because there's so many amazing people out there. Please share this with somebody you know, love, and care about. There's a founder out there that needs this, and I would love for you to be the one to share it to them. All right, till next time. Talk to you soon. See you.